On Christmas Eve, 1971, 17-year-old Juliane Koepcke was sitting inside a passenger airplane, thousands of feet above the Peruvian Amazon. Moments later, she would be falling through the sky, still strapped to her seat, alone, and with no idea that she was about to become the only survivor of one of the most extraordinary aviation disasters ever recorded. She fell nearly 3,000 meters, and somehow, she lived. Juliane had just finished high school in Lima. She and her mother, Maria, were flying back to Panguana to spend Christmas with Juliane's father. Panguana was not an ordinary home. Her parents were zoologists, and they had built a biological research station deep in the Peruvian rainforest. Juliane had spent part of her childhood there. She knew the jungle. She knew its sounds. She knew its rivers. And, without knowing it, that knowledge was about to become the reason she survived. LANSA Flight 508 left Lima on December 24. There were 92 people on board. For the first part of the journey, everything seemed normal. Then the sky began to darken. The aircraft entered a powerful tropical storm. The turbulence became violent. Passengers screamed. Luggage flew through the cabin. And then came a flash of white light. Lightning had struck the aircraft. The plane began to break apart in midair. Juliane saw the world disappear around her. And then, she was no longer inside the airplane. Juliane was still strapped to her row of seats. Below her was nothing but the endless green canopy of the Amazon. She was falling from roughly 3,000 meters. She remembered seeing the jungle below her. Then everything went black. When she finally woke, it was Christmas morning. More than 20 hours had passed. She was lying beneath the rainforest canopy. Her collarbone was broken. She had cuts and other injuries. She had lost her glasses, and her mother was nowhere to be seen. Juliane was 17 years old, and she was completely alone. Her first instinct was to find her mother. She searched the surrounding jungle and found traces of the crash. She also discovered the bodies of other passengers. One of them was a woman. Juliane checked her feet. The woman's toenails were painted. Her mother never wore nail polish. It was not her. Juliane had no way of knowing it yet, but she was the only person from Flight 508 who would walk away from the crash. She had survived the fall. Now she had to survive the jungle. Juliane's parents had taught her something that most people would never learn: how to live in the rainforest. She knew that wandering randomly through the jungle would be almost impossible, so she remembered one of her father's most important lessons: find water, follow it downstream. Streams eventually become rivers, and rivers lead toward people. So Juliane began walking. She followed the water through the rainforest, day after day, with almost no food, no map, no shoes, and no idea how far she still had to go. The fall had injured her, but the jungle was slowly making those injuries worse. Insects covered her. Her wounds became infected. Rain soaked her thin clothes. Hunger weakened her. At night, she struggled to sleep, and still, she kept moving. She followed the water because she had nothing else. On some days, she could hear aircraft searching overhead, but beneath the enormous rainforest canopy, the planes could not see her. Rescue was looking for her, but the jungle was hiding her. After days of walking, Juliane's condition became desperate. Then, somewhere along the water, she saw something that did not belong in the jungle: a small wooden hut. Inside, there was no food. But there was something else: a container of gasoline. By then, the wound on her arm had become infested with botfly larvae. Juliane remembered something her father had once done to treat a wounded animal: gasoline. She poured it onto the wound. The pain was intense, but the larvae began to emerge. For the first time in days, Juliane had found a place that might lead to other human beings. She spent the night inside the hut. The next morning, she heard voices. Men were approaching. Juliane ran outside. She spoke to them in Spanish. She told them her name. She told them she had been on the LANSA crash. And finally, after 11 days in the rainforest, someone had found her. The men took her by canoe toward a settlement. From there, she was taken to Pucallpa. Juliane had made it out. But there was something Juliane still didn't know. She was the only survivor. 91 people had died. Her mother was among them. Juliane had survived a fall of nearly 3,000 meters, then walked through the Amazon for 11 days, guided by lessons her parents had taught her as a child. Years later, she would return to the rainforest. She became a biologist and continued working to protect the very environment that had once seemed determined to kill her. Her story is often called a miracle, but Juliane Koepcke's survival was more than a miracle. It was knowledge, instinct, and the decision to keep moving when every reason to stop had already disappeared. She fell from the sky, and the jungle gave her back.